Well, another year's come and gone, and it's been an interesting one for me from a photography perspective. So I thought I would throw together a quick video just to give you sort of a year in review for photography. Not necessarily, my best photographs or anything like that, but just a survey of the year. And I thought that would be a fun way to maybe get back into the habit or to keep trying to develop the habit of putting together content, because that's one of the areas where I've struggled with most this year is trying to keep putting content together on a consistent basis and actually get better at it, because if you're not actually doing it, then you're not getting better, and in many ways getting lazier and getting worse and doing things that I would never show. So so year in review, and I'll try to do it again next year, and hopefully next year's video will show a bit of an improvement. Okay, so this is a picture of New York taken from the Empire State Building, and the reason why I started off with this photo is just this year was all about travel for me, and for the first time in a while, actually. And this year we went to a number of locations, including New York. It was in the spring and the weather was terrible, and this is pretty much how it looked every day, at least for the most part. And so it was cold, and it was cloudy, and it was it was different. So first time in New York, beautiful city, and had the opportunity to photograph a number of places, including some landmarks like the Flatiron Building and the Empire State Building again from the bottom. You can see from these photos it's pretty dark and gray. Grand Central Station, it's a fun place to photograph. It's beautiful building, and it's really is a remarkable and busy place. Good to have a little GorillaPod or something to take a little bit of a slow-mo shot. This is a photograph of the Oculus, which is at sort of the World Trade Center, Ground Zero. Beautiful building. It's a Calatrava building, and it's just fun to go in, and to photograph it is it's tough. It's a selfie location, so it's tough to squeeze in and take a shot. I think this was a 2-image panel to get the scope of the height of the building. My favorite photo is coming up after this one, but this is the Brooklyn Bridge. It's a really cool spot to photograph, and this is in the evening when it's not quite so busy. Kind of one of the nicer days that we got, even though it had been raining quite a bit just moments earlier than this, but you can maybe see there's a little bit of a glow in the background right along the horizon. And then I think this is sort of a nice kind of way to end the photos that I took in New York. Sunset along Lower Manhattan. You can see the skyscrapers, and I'm taking this from the Brooklyn Bridge, and the car deck and the walking deck is visible, and the sunset in the background. It's a beautiful place. Yeah, and then this is Las Vegas, actually, and it's just a really fun place to shoot because there's so many lights and so much life. This is the observation wheel in the background. It's actually bigger than the London Eye. And in true Vegas style, you can actually take one of the cars that has a little bar in it, and you can drink on your half an hour trip around, or whatever amount it takes. So it's a little different than London for sure. This is just a sort of a panel to kind of give you a sense of what the hotels look like. This is the Venetian. This is the Bellagio at sunset. I didn't really get any great light while we were there. It's usually pretty blue sky. And so often you take photographs at night when it's after blue hour, when it's a bit darker. This is another hotel. It's the Luxor. People taking selfies in front of the Sphinx. Yeah, it's just that's Vegas. And another location that we went to this year was Europe, and our trip took us from Amsterdam to Strasbourg to Paris to London. And Amsterdam was a fun place to shoot. Love photographing the canals. Hopefully I'll get to go back again sometime because there were so many cool spots, lots to photograph. This is an example, and you can see where the buildings come right down to the water. That's kind of the spots where I thought there was the most interest. Here's another example. This is along the Damrak, which is right by the central train station. And again, the houses come right down to the water, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, this another canal shot here. It's not with the buildings coming down to the water, but it's where multiple canals connect together. This is the Kaisersgracht Canal here, and then I photographed this with at sunset with a tour boat sort of passing underneath. Yeah, this is it's a simple shot. I just threw it in just to show you, this is not a popular spot to photograph. It's just a random location, but just how nice it is to walk along the canals. And you can make a picture almost anywhere in the city. Yeah, another location, Brouwersgracht, I believe. And, it's just the interest is in the architecture and the canals and how the buildings seem to fall away from themselves. And it's not a distortion from the camera or anything. It's actually like that. The buildings seem to lean away, and it's just a very interesting place, something I hadn't seen before. Yeah, another shot of the canals with the buildings right down at blue hour. Not much in the way of clouds, but or at least when I was there. So the blue hour is kind of actually kind of cool, and maybe even more interesting than having an interesting cloudscape, because the focus is on the canals and the buildings rather than the sort of a mixed message between the buildings and the sunset sky. After Amsterdam, we went to Strasbourg, and this is nothing unique, but it's just kind of shows you the city at sunset. The bright sun still hitting the top of the cathedral. The shadows already setting in between the buildings. The French flag on the right just added to the scene a little bit. I mean, it's a little cluttered down at the bottom, but I think still impressive. Maybe just even as much from a vacation memory perspective as opposed to a photographic perspective. This is again in Strasbourg, along the Ill River, close to where we stayed in the Petite France area. Just a panel at sunset, just to give you a sense of the view and the sort of the pretty little French Alsace architecture. I think this is one of my favorite pictures from Strasbourg, just along the river. Flowers in the foreground, nice kind of fluffy, colorful clouds at sunset, boat in the middle, architecture, just kind of a typical scene here, and shows the city for the beautiful location that it is. Again, Strasbourg along in Petite France, just a remarkable little place. This is in Paris, so after Strasbourg we went to Paris. This is inside Sainte-Chapelle, probably the nicest religious building that I've ever been in. I think you go in enough cathedrals and they start to look the same, and you can't tell them apart. And maybe I'm a Philistine for saying that, but when you walk into Sainte-Chapelle, it's totally different. It's just insane how beautiful it is inside there. I would have preferred to have been inside on a day that wasn't sunny, because on the right hand, the image, I wasn't able to expose it so that the glass on the right wasn't blown out, so it's not totally even across the image. So keep that in mind. Probably a bright cloudy day would be the perfect day to go into a place like this. Yeah, and this is obviously the Louvre, it was a fun place to shoot. This is, I think, the photograph I like the most from this location, although the lights weren't on the lampposts. I tried to kind of make it happen in post, but it looked kind of crappy. The other thing is the metal fence on the left hand side. I could have been out another 20 feet, but unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about that, I guess. And I don't have the post skills to clean that out. But yeah, no, it's a really cool location. I prefer the external part of the Louvre to the internal myself, but again, that's just a preference. So anyway, this is a 2 or 3 shot pano. Yeah, I didn't get many nice sunsets in Europe this summer, but this is Notre Dame Cathedral, just on one of the bridges right behind it. Sunset, obviously. You could photograph the city forever and not cover the entire basis. So, it's just incredible. And so, yeah, again, Notre Dame Cathedral at Blue Hour from the front, just on the river, just showing the paths along the edge of the river and the people sitting out and enjoying the summer evening. It's a great place to hang out. And in Paris and some of the other cities, I did a little bit of street photography. I'm not super good at that, but here's our couple of attempts. Kind of thought this guy was kind of, I don't know. I just thought it was a kind of a nice scene, and same with this one. The dog alert and the 2 old ladies, fading pretty rapidly here. And the colorful outfits with the sort of gritty background, I just thought it was a kind of a cool spot and a cool little scene. So yeah, fun travel photography. Then I threw this in, and it's just, for me, I enjoy taking panoramics wherever I am, including in very tight spaces like these very narrow streets in the Latin Quarter of Paris. Normally you don't take panos in these kind of locations, and so it was just kind of fun to do, and it gives it a different perspective on the city. And this is in the Latin Quarter, as I mentioned, and it's just fun to do panos in different kind of situations, not the grand landscape, but the medieval kind of street pano. Yeah, pano again, you probably noticed a theme that I like to stitch photos together in Lightroom. This is King's Cross Station, so this is not Paris now, obviously, but we took the channel across and then did our trip in London, and this is just one of the photos I threw in. I find London actually a really hard place to take photographs in because the city's so big, and it's just, in one way it's industrial, and another way it's modern. And in another way, there's the 50s architecture, which isn't that nice, and it's all jumbled in. And I find it really hard. And when I see so many great photos of London, and I admire those people that can shoot London successfully. I admire those people the best, because that's where it's hard. So yeah, and so this is back home now this fall. Photograph in Edmonton, which is the city here in Alberta, just from a trip that we had taken. It's just a sunset photo along the Saskatchewan River. I think it speaks for itself. Again, another pano, so I think it's probably a 3-image shot. I'd forgotten my ISO at 600, and it was a bit noisy. So yeah, I do that still, where I mess up my settings because I haven't checked at the start of shooting in it. And I did get a lot of landscape photography in this year. Usually I do a lot of landscape photography. This was a weird year for us. It was a fire season that extended from July to the end of September, basically. I think So we had a solid 3 months where there's a lot of forest fires in British Columbia, and the smoke came into Alberta, and it was in Banff and the Rocky Mountain Parks, and you basically couldn't see anything, even in town. You couldn't see 3 blocks because of the smoke. And so it wasn't until October really that things cleared out, and so I didn't get much opportunity to photograph in the mountains this year. This is in fall, probably late September, early October, and it's at a lake called Spillway Lake in Kananaskis country. And then, as is the next shot, sunset at Spillway Lake. It's a kind of a neat little location in Kananaskis. Yeah, and this was kind of a bucket list shot for me. Just this is called Pito Lake, and it's in Banff National Park along the Icefields Parkway. And I wanted to photograph this when there was snow, but the lake wasn't frozen, and so you'll notice the white snow that goes all the way around the shore of the lake, and that kind of frames the blue water. Now, in this case, I was actually mostly getting reflection from the sky and the clouds and the mountain peak, and that's what's coloring the water. Still, I think that it was a nice day, and the photos turned out pretty well. Photos don't do that. This is one of those places where no photo by anyone will ever do justice to the view. It's staggeringly beautiful, and if anyone's in Canada or in Alberta specifically, and you're going to get a chance for the parks, Pito Lake is one of those places you just have to go there because it floors you seeing something so beautiful. This is again probably October, November, mid-October. This is at Upper Kananaskis Lake. It's before sunrise at the lake, obviously. And just kind of a nice soft pink dawn reflection scene. Panoramic again. I just liked it. I actually liked it more than the sunrise. So it was good to get a little bit of nature and landscape photography in before the lakes froze up. And I'm conscious that I don't want to take this on too long, but one of the things that I've tried to refocus on this last part of the year is doing some stock photography, and that's something that I have done a lot of, but I've gotten away from it. So I spent the last few months trying to do some winter, city and winter shots to sort of bulk up my stock portfolio, and I sell on micro stock sites like Shutterstock. So maybe I'll throw a link to that into the video here, but. So this is the last part of my photography journey for this year, was refocusing on microstock and getting a bunch of stuff done and uploaded to those sites. The same idea here, skyline shot from a different perspective. This is a morning shot, lots of geese. Skyline, I tried to get as many different perspectives on the urban skyline as possible. It's a popular stock photography, so here's along the Bow River, and I just sat here and photographed as it got darker. Yeah, so there's that. And then photographing some more landmarks. This is inside the Peace Bridge, which was designed by Calatrava as well, and is a pretty famous landmark in Calgary. Cold winter day. It's the urban environment and the environment you live in it's a fun place to photograph. In Calgary, I'm getting close to the end here, but in Calgary we recently had a new building open. It's a sort of a big public library building downtown, and it was the result of a competition and a significant investment. It's a remarkable building. Pretty beautiful. My daughter thought it looked more like Elsa's Ice Palace than a library, which it looks kind of like maybe that's the case. I find it a very Canadian kind of looking building because it's sort of a snowflake design exterior anyway. yeah, here another view of the library. And this is another side of it. Again, this is a pano actually, so it gives you a sweeping sort of view of the location and the neighborhood, that it's sort of an underdeveloped neighborhood that's partly intended to help revitalize. And yeah, just inside the library, I just posted through in a few interior shots so you'd see what's going on inside the building. This is the reading room. Yeah, just stacks. More stacks with a teepee, you know, showing Canada's Aboriginal heritage in part. And yeah, I just do this image is my last one, and it's more of a Merry Christmas photo. Season's greetings to all you out there in the internet land. I hope you've had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And yeah, all the best in 2019. And I'm looking forward to all the videos from the content creators that I subscribe to and enjoy. So hope you enjoyed this video. And yeah, like I said, all the best. Let's have a great year. Cheers.